And speaking of Unity Charlotte, there's lots of ways to get to know what's going on here. We have our website that you can check in on. We have a weekly newsletter that goes out. We have a Facebook page up where we're posting announcements of events and activities. You can also go on YouTube and watch our past services on the Unity of Charlotte channel. And we have a bulletin board outside, right outside the sanctuary, because we can't announce everything that's going on here. We have so many wonderful activities. So what we don't announce will always be posted on the board. So always check that out and see what's going on. All right, so let's now go into prayer. I invite you to sit back, gently close your eyes. Take a moment using your breath to move from your head to your heart space. As we open this sacred space in prayer, joining in the knowledge that there is but one presence and power, the holy, whole goodness of God. This is our very nature and the nature in which we live. So even as we are spending this month celebrating our planet and Mother Nature, we see that as an expression of this God presence. But we also know that power, that strength, that wisdom lives and expresses in us and as us. We tune into that power of love in our heart center, knowing that this is a mighty flow, a mighty current of energy, which joins all of us as one. Not just here within our community, but out into our neighborhood and across the globe. And in the sharing and recognition of that love, we see healing, reconciliation, the end of war, the end of violence, the end of injustice, as we all awaken to the awareness that we are here together to love one another. This is our vision, and this is what we claim as the truth of who we are. Thank you, thank you, thank you, Spirit. And so it is. Now, please join with me as we speak aloud our unity prayer of oneness. There is one presence and one power in my life and universe, God, the good, omnipotent. We claim and affirm this presence in our lives as love. I'm now going to open up the space for you to speak a name aloud, followed by silent prayer. Anyone that you feel is in need of prayer, including yourself or any situation, this is the opportunity to speak that out loud, and we will hold it in this sacred prayer space. So speak now. For every name or situation spoken aloud, and even those held within our heart, we know the presence of Spirit is working in and through that person and that situation to bring about the very best outcome. And so it is. Amen. I'd like to invite up Adrian and Maria to read our daily word.
Hi, everybody. Daily word today is healing. God's healing power is moving through me. I am open and receptive to God's healing power within me and within my dear ones. I trust with absolute faith that God is greater than any worldly conditions. I cannot limit God. I listen to the still, small voice within and feel guided along my healing journey. La palabra de hoy es sanación. El poder sanador de Dios se mueve por medio de mí. Estoy receptivo al poder sanador de Dios y tengo fe absoluta en que su grandeza prevalece sobre cualquier situación. No puedo limitar a Dios. Escucho la apacible voz interior y me siento guiado a lo largo de mi viaje de sanación.
If fear and worry get the better of me and I start to feel anxious, I call forth the healing power of the indwelling Christ. I spiritually surrender my concerns. When I pray for my dear ones, I do not focus on condition. Rather, I see them as the divine beings they are, whole, prosperous, and spiritually perfect.
Si el miedo o la preocupación se apoderan de mí, invoco el poder sanador de Cristo en mi interior. Entrego mis preocupaciones al orar por mis seres queridos. No me centro en su condición, sino los veo como los seres divinos que son.
As I pray, I perceive God's healing presence moving through me and my beloveds. This presence is the health beyond the illness, the abundance beyond the insufficiency, and the life beyond death. It is the truth of my life. Your healing shall spring up quickly. Isaiah 58:8.
Mientras oro, percibo la presencia sanadora de Dios en mí y en mis seres queridos. Esta presencia representa la salud más allá de la enfermedad, la abundancia más allá de la insuficiencia y la vida más allá de la muerte. Es la verdad de mi existencia. Muy pronto tus heridas sanarán. Isaías 58:8. Gracias.
And so it is.
What about that idea of love at first sight? What about it? If you were in your favorite coffee house, if you were in Starbucks, you locked eyes with somebody across the room, instantly fell in love. What about someone that you've known for years? Some person, some situation has changed. And you start and create that romance for the ages. How about that? How does your love story begin, is what I'm asking. What does falling in love with all of creation look like in your life? Falling in love with all of creation. Today we're going to talk about a few different things with that theme in mind. We're going to talk about an awareness of our oneness with the universe. We're going to talk about coexistence. And we're going to talk about a loving kindness awareness of Earth as our home. So, an awareness of our oneness with all of creation. So right off the bat, it never is about becoming part of that universe in terms of it coming to us. And stick with me here because we spoke to this a little bit on Friday with our other book group. It's not the thing is coming to us. It is that it is moving through us. And there's a subtle difference there. It's not coming to us from the outside in, that exterior coming in terms of our oneness with the universe. That oneness is moving through us. You see the difference of that subtle piece? And that's where we live, in our oneness. That oneness is moving through us. Today's message is about a love story of sorts. And that's where we've started here today. Not with a person, but being in love with all of creation. All of creation. And we're going to get to the nitty-gritty of that in a second. The question that I ask myself, and I'm posing to you as well, is, do you see God in everything? Do you see God in everything? Or do we simply think in terms of that idea of dominion within our world? That Old Testament idea of humans having dominion over that creation. In Genesis, and God said, now this is King James Version, so it's going to have gender. Forgive me, I'm just going to go with it. And God said, let us make man in our image, after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, pardon me, and over the cattle, and over the earth, and over every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth. Microsoft Word, by the way, does not like the word creepeth. It kept kicking it out of my notes. Creepeth. So there it is, the Old Testament. We have dominion over everything that creepeth on the earth. All right. I'll just go with it. But I think that we, over the centuries, because again, this is Hebrew scriptures, I think we've misinterpreted this scripture. Does dominion translate into exploitation? No, I think we'd all probably agree to that. It does not mean exploitation. It does not mean to subdue. It does not mean to rule over. It does not mean oppression, especially oppression of this world, of the people within this world, of the things within this world, even the inanimate objects of this world. For me, that brings into mind things like greed, wastefulness, and just simply being unwise with those things that have been given to us. But what if dominion in its highest form was instead this idea of responsibility? A responsible governance of what we've been given. Stewardship is a word that I like as well. Balance. And then ultimately, that term that we're looking at today is love. Dominion ultimately is love for that which we've been given in that creative process. It's a higher consciousness in that idea of dominion. So let's talk about coexistence as we go through these ideas. It is a spiritual consciousness that can manifest as love of all creation. Let me repeat that. It's a spiritual consciousness, this idea of coexistence. So it's a coexistence not only of my neighbor and their faith, or my neighbor and his politics, but it's a coexistence of everything in this world that we encounter, that we even know about, maybe even not even physical. That's part of the spiritual consciousness. And it begs the question, is the whole of creation sacred? You see where I'm going with this? Is that spiritual consciousness telling me that everything that was created was, and I use the word on purpose, is it sacred in our lives? What do you think? Yes, no, maybe. Yes. Okay, well then I'll challenge you here. And in fact, our men's group, just this last meeting of our men's group, we talked about some of this stuff. We talked about God and creation and the idea of, I think that God created a lot of good stuff, but what about that gopher in the backyard? He's digging up my lawn. What about that bark beetle in my front yard? He's killing my cedar tree. And here's the one that the men's group really had an issue with. What about that mosquito? Right? Is that where you went? And so I did a little research after I left the men's group. 240 million people contact malaria every year. What's the purpose of that? I don't know. 600,000 people die from malaria every year. Is there a reason? Why did God create mosquitoes? Anyone who has an answer, let me know afterwards, because I don't know either. The mosquito. But again, the question comes to us, is the whole of creation sacred? Even the mosquito, the gopher, the bark beetle. Is it all sacred? Is it on us, with that dominion, with that free agency that we have as humans, is it up to us to judge what is sacred and not? Can we like certain things and not other things? Is that appropriate? Is that something that should be done? I don't know either. I believe that we are interdependent with all of creation. And we probably don't know enough about this plan, about this. We probably just don't know what's going on with creation to make those judgments about the mosquito. That's where I land, is I just probably don't know enough. And then you have the joke, the standing joke. And in fact, I think it's Mark Twain who says, God only made 2 mistakes. You know what those are? God made 2 mistakes. The size of an avocado pit is way too big, Mark Twain would say, and then the lifespan of a dog is way too short. And I would agree with that. But that's just bringing a little levity to the idea of, are we to judge that? Because all of God's creation is spiritual when we think about it. Everything, all the way down to the rocks, the water, everything that we encounter in this world. They live in an atmosphere of love and therefore are capable only of loving. This environment that we live in is only capable of loving, is what we believe in unity. As humans, rather than exploiting, can loving coexistence naturally govern how we live our day-to-day lives, our minute-to-minute existence? Is that coexistence truly part of that love experience that we have? Can we be responsible stewards that coexist with our environment? And again, in quotes, in love. Can we coexist in love? Who else wants to come with me and say, yes, yes, there's one. I got one. Yes, we can coexist in love. Yes, absolutely. So I created an affirmation to bring with me this week, and I'm hoping you will utilize it as well, and we'll say it together today as well. Let me go through it once on my own. I am in love with all of creation. I honor my oneness with the universe. So I am one with all of creation. I honor my oneness with the universe. Okay, I'm going to hold you to this. I'm going to hold you to this. Let's talk about a loving kindness awareness of Earth as home. And I wrote this and then I thought, this is beyond treating Earth as home. Wouldn't it be kind of cool if we could treat Earth as a temple as well? What if Earth was that temple that we think of as being sacred? So I like that image of a temple and utilizing loving kindness. This concept is a shout out actually to our Buddhist brothers and sisters, this loving kindness that I talk about. And we do. We have so much to learn from our Buddhist brothers and sisters. They would tell us that all life is divine, all the way down to that individual fire ant that might be crawling up my leg and stinging my shin. It's all sacred, the Buddhist would tell us. Reverend Lisa and I had the great honor of being able to visit Thich Nhat Hanh's monastery in France a few years back, and we spent a week there. It was, I don't know, did we fly out of New York? Is that where we went, our transatlantic? We flew out of New York, we went to Amsterdam, we flew down to Bordeaux, we took a train, we took a bus. Right, I'm tired just thinking about it. We checked into our room at Plum Village, which is Thich Nhat Hanh's monastery, with a view of the vineyards of France, right? How can you beat this? We checked into our room, and it's a very Spartan, is that the right term? Austere, very austere room that we had there. It had a desk, it had a bed, and it had a lamp. I think that was it in this room. And I was so excited, and what? Oh, 2 beds, 2 twin beds, yeah. And no hanky-panky in this room. At the Buddhist monastery, no, frowned upon. So we're in this room, we're checking there, and I just kind of boom, fall into the bed for a second. And then I look around this room, and it's not the cleanest room that I've ever checked into. I'm looking up, and there's some cobwebs up there. I sit up, and the one window in our room had spider webs around it, a little spider crawling around, and I realized that, and I learned later on through the process of this week, they're not going to kill that spider, even that spider in my room. They encouraged me, if I didn't want to share the room with the spider, which I really didn't, that I was encouraged to take that spider lovingly, and move it outside where it could continue to live. That's how Buddhists bring this idea of loving kindness to the world. Even the spider that they're sharing space with is not killed. They don't kill the ants and the fire ants and that. It is part of their active care of this world. Active care. So going beyond simple coexistence and into stewardship, protection of something might be considered worthy as well. Protection of that spider, protection of that fire ant that's crawling up my leg, maybe. And there is a responsibility. The Buddhists would tell me, I am responsible for that other soul that I am interacting with. I'm not just tolerating this, I am responsible for this thing. Okay, that challenges me. That takes me to that next level, I've got to admit. But I love being challenged in terms of spiritual consciousness. So that's a good thing. Where does climate change come into my challenge? And I'm seeing some, yeah, I know. Where does that come into my world as well? Do we take responsibility for our part in the idea of changing the environment over the centuries as a human race? If we believe that we co-create in this world, then we must believe that we can create the change in this world as well, right? Unless you are of the ilk that deny, then I don't know what to tell you. But if you agree that we as humans made some sort of change, then we can change it back. That's part of what the Buddhists would tell us as well. We can make more informed decisions based on our energy usage. We can balance our need for resources with sustainability. We can balance everything that we need and use in terms of resources within our world. Unity has a program that it started a few years ago. It's called Earth Care Ministry. I don't know if you've heard that, seen that. You can go online and look on Unity Worldwide Ministry site, and it's called Earth Care, all one word, Earth Care Ministry. They ask the question, can we serve in a role of good stewards for our earth? That is their question. And they have a few suggestions on where do we start? Where do we start as being good stewards in this Earth Awareness Month and beyond? Yeah, please, let's not only do it in April, but here is our awareness of that. And here are the 4 things that they list. Being part of Unity, what do you think the first thing is? Pray. Boom. You got it. First thing you do about anything that's entered your life that you don't understand or that you're struggling against, enter into prayer. We pray. We always start with prayer. Meditation is their second thing. Move into meditation. Move into the silence. What is mine to do? You ask the question. You ask the question and you seek the guidance. What is mine to do? There is divine wisdom out there if you are willing to listen. And then we participate. The third thing, we participate in inspired and spiritually centered activism. What's the group we have here that does that? Spiritual Social Action Ministry. It may be a mouthful, but there it is. Spiritual, Ernstsen, if you want to shorten it. Spiritual Social Action Ministry. Those folks get together, they pray, they meditate, they think about, they wonder what is our next step, and they bat around ideas collectively, right? They explore that idea of what is spiritually centered activism within their lives, Ernstsen. And then we educate, we support, and we encourage others in their awareness. That's the 4th thing that the Earth Care Ministry would tell us. Educate, support, encourage others in their awareness. I added the last one only because I can. I've added the 5th one. And this is very personal to me. This one hits home. And I'm going to put a caveat on this. I woke up this morning and I scratched it out once, and then I added it back in, and I scratched it out again. So I'm cautious with this one, but I am going to share it with you. Here's my 5th one in terms of good stewardship for this earth. Spiritual consciousness is mindful eating for me. This is my spiritual practice. That we take care of our bodies, this physical temple that we have. We can raise our consciousness to how we connect and work with and are with the rest of the world as well. In other words, there's a sacred relationship with the rest of the earth, with the animals in this earth as well. I choose, now hear me, I choose not to kill animals in order to eat, except fish. I really like shrimp. So, I gotta say, I choose not to eat animals, but I recognize that that is my decision. I am telling you, right, and I want every one of you to hear, I am not judging you if you do. I choose not to eat animals, except for fish. And I feel good about that. I feel good about that. And I challenge you to consider, just simply consider that. This is not I'm not chastising anyone. This is something to consider. Our Earth Care Covenant is this. Unity's first principle states that there is only one presence and one power pervading the entire universe. Sounds familiar? That's what we recite every week. One presence and one power. Unity Worldwide Ministries is committed to embodying this principle and honoring our oneness with the earth. Honoring our oneness with the earth. That is the covenant that they talk about. And for us, we can also move into that idea of Unity's fifth basic principle, which is it's not enough to simply know the truth. Our thoughts, words, and actions, those things that we live by, are the truth as well within our lives. Friday, our book group, that Universal Prosperity class, spoke to the idea of, and this is a made-up word, the authors put together two words, authentegrity. Authentegrity is a principle that we can live by. Is it a principle or is it a core ability? It's a core ability, and I lose track of it. A core ability that we have is our authentegrity. Can we live in a place, here's what it means to me, authentegrity. Can we live in a place where our values match our actions? Our value, we say, I value this thing, but is my action on a day-to-day basis also reflecting in that? If it is, I live in authentegrity. And that's where we can choose to be on any given moment. Our affirmation, I am in love with all of creation. I honor my oneness with the universe. So as I wrap up here, I choose, and I invite you to join me as well, I choose to lovingly coexist with all of creation. I choose to treat our relationship with the universe as a love story. It wasn't love at first sight, maybe, but it's a love story nonetheless. I choose to practice loving kindness with all creatures, great and small. Will you join me? Thank you. I love you. I bless you. I appreciate you. I see the divine in each and every one. Namaste. Do I have time for a meditation? I ask my co-minister. Let's move into meditation. I invite you to wiggle around. I invite you to, thank you, Will. I invite you to place your hands on your lap if that's comfortable. Closing your eyes if that feels right. And for the first few moments, focusing on your breath in order to let go. Bringing our focus to that breath allows us to clear and move from our mind into our heart space. I might even imagine that with that inhale, I bring in, I experience that love of the universe. I might imagine that with my exhale, I let go of any stress, anxiety, or strain within my life. Bring in love. I know of everything else. And as I continue to breathe, as I feel that in and that out of each breath, I allow myself to focus on this idea, this spiritual quality of oneness and my place in the universe. Imagine how it feels to coexist with everything. Imagine that I can bring a loving kindness into everything I do. And the next minute or so, being quiet. As we begin to come out of this silence, just gently becoming aware of the room around us once again, maybe deepening our breath, opening our eyes, coming back into this room, claiming that idea of being in love with all of creation.
And I am standing here feeling in love with all of creation. And what a beautiful example of circulation in creation, of giving and receiving as we move into our time of offertory and blessing. It's through your generous giving that Unity of Charlotte is able to continue to give back. So we take this time, whatever gifts you have to bring, it may be here physically, it may be online. If you so, just hold your hands together with that thought in mind of that gift as we join together in our prosperity blessing. Joyously, I give this gift, knowing the divine presence blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. Thank you, God. Ushers. So we have a special announcement that Reverend Jim and I would like to make. Because our board has been in conversation with Wesley United Methodist Church, and we feel it's very important as a board to keep everybody aware of situations that may impact us. So we are beginning to share information with you about the situation that Wesley is facing right now. As you know, there was flooding a couple of months ago. Most of you are aware of that. Wesley brought in a professional company to dry out the space, clean it all up. They did an amazing job of that. However, there are continuing situations that flooding has caused. Wesley found out they do not have insurance coverage to help them financially with that those repairs. They've had long-term roofing issues, and it's kind of come down to the fact that the necessary repairs and work to be done to mitigate the flooding, change the grounds outside so it doesn't happen again, and continue to service the roof issues that they've had for a long time are substantial. So as a congregation, and also you may know or remember that their minister or their pastor retired in December. So Pastor Pat is here as an interim minister, but she leaves in June. So they're facing a lot of questions about how to move forward. And of course, their decisions will also impact us. So we want you to know this is happening. We want you to know that as a board, we're in constant communication with them. We have an amazing relationship with their board and with the pastors that have been here, really with everybody that's been here. Most of you know this has been really a dream place to land. The relationship has been mutually beneficial and friendly and open and accommodating, to the point where we're even having conversations with them about how we might engage with their future plans. It's important to know that they've only extended our lease by 3 months at this time because they don't know what's going to happen. That's just it. That is what it is. There have been no final decisions made. They met this morning with their district representative along with their interim pastor, and their board let their congregation know, like, here's the situation we're facing. I think they're pretty aware they can't continue moving forward the way they have been. Something has to be done with the building and the grounds. And so decisions have to be made, but they're not there yet because they still need to gather information about what would that really cost, how could it really happen, and what are other options for what might happen on this property. Lots of questions. So I wish I had more certainty for you, but we wanted to just start to bring you in so we don't show up one day and say, hey, guess what's happening? We're moving. We don't know anything for sure, but we do know things are going to change. That we do know for sure. We're supporting them in stepping through this decision. So many of you, I'm going to hold off and let you do that part. Sorry. Let me see if there's anything else I wanted to say. They extended our lease by 3 months. And of course, there is a serious consideration that they will have to leave the building. So that's their information to us. That's what our board is sitting with and opening to all possibilities. So I'll let Jim finish.
So April 1st was our 1-year anniversary here in this space. And that was the renewal of our contract with them, with our lease, our lease with them. And when we approached them, when Jim Fuller, the president of the board, approached them, it was like, well, we're only going to extend that for 3 months. So that's when we kind of got an inkling of what was going on. That is the end of June, if we count the number of days. That's what we're looking forward to. Again, we have more questions than we have answers at this point, but it being perfectly transparent, we want to communicate all of this to each and every one of you here, out there, everywhere else as well. So we're being proactive in other ways as well. The board has begun conversations with other spaces that we could possibly move to. We're not anywhere. So know that we can speak to any of your concerns out in fellowship today. But we're not at a place where we know the names of the places we are looking at. Let me just say that. So we're looking, we're exploring, and those possibilities are out there as well. And we just want to say from our heart, I guess, from that space of love that, many of you have been in this position in the past in terms of leaving church homes, and understand the process that we will probably end up going through. We want to extend a great kindness and compassion for the folks at Wesley. Think about them. They've been here for decades, and to, possibly have to leave their spiritual home has got to be gut-wrenching for them. So we want to offer them compassion. If we run into them in the hallways, compassion and kindness to them as well. And our prayer affirming that wisdom and divine guidance is leading us to our next future home. We know that there is divine order in this process, and that wisdom and that grace will guide us to our next space.
So I would invite everyone to take a nice deep breath in and let it out on a sigh. Feel yourself centered here and remember that this community continues to be wherever we land. But right now, here is where we are, and we are so blessed. And as we continue to get information, we will keep you informed so there's no surprises. And know that your board's being very proactive in ensuring that we don't get caught by surprise. So I think we're all doing everything we can, and we're living in the faith and the confidence that we are being guided to the perfect outcome, whatever that may be. And we're doing it together. And so it is. Amen.
Let's stand.
Stand and do the prayer for protection. The light of God surrounds us. We are light.
The love of God enfolds us. We are love. The power of God protects us. We are power. The presence of God watches over us. We are presence. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well.